Welcome back to the deep dive. We are so thrilled to have you joining us today because we're stepping into something truly special.
We really are. It's a fantastic topic.
Yeah, and if you've ever felt, completely overwhelmed by that constant buzzing in your pocket
Or the endless pressure to be productive every single second of the day.
Exactly.
Mm.
You are going to want to hear this. Our mission for this session is to explore a fascinating, deeply reflective stack of philosophical notes and story drafts.
Written by Mustafa Bayrak.
Right. And these writings draw heavily on his youth and his experiences in Bursa, Turkey. And they really have one beautiful, overarching goal.
Figuring out how to escape the endless, exhausting noise of the modern world.
To find our true internal measure.
And it's a journey that feels incredibly relevant right now. The context of these sources is an intellectual and spiritual retreat that takes place right at the turn of the new year.
That exact moment when everyone is already thinking about change.
Right, resolutions, hitting the reset button. But Bayrak isn't offering, a standard corporate goal-setting workshop. He is actively blending the hyper-connected realities of our digital age with ancient, timeless human reflection.
And just a quick note for you listening. Our goal today isn't to tell you what to believe. Bayrak writes from a deeply Islamic philosophical perspective.
A very rich tradition.
Yes, and our aim here is simply to dive into his specific worldview and extract the incredible practical tools he offers for living a more grounded life. Because we talk all the time, probably every single day, about feeling trapped in a vicious cycle.
The daily grind.
You know the drill? You wake up, scroll your phone, rush to work, stress out, doom scroll some more, sleep, and repeat. But Bayrak asks this amazing question. What if we could flip that script?
What if we could turn that exact same energy into what he calls a fertile cycle?
Yes.
The fertile cycle is a remarkable shift in perspective. Instead of trying to aggressively break our routines, which, let's be honest, rarely works anyway, he suggests we transform them.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because when I think of a cycle, I immediately picture a hamster wheel.
The classic hamster wheel.
You're running until your lungs burn, but you are going absolutely nowhere. How does Bayrak's framework turn a hamster wheel into something fertile?
Well, he uses this wonderful metaphor of a stone thrown into a still pond. Think about that core point where the stone hits the water.
It makes a splash.
Right, and it opens up a circle. But it doesn't just stop there. That initial circle gives birth to other circles.
The ripples.
Exactly. It creates these horizontal ripples that expand outward across the surface of the pond. In this philosophy, that horizontal expansion represents how a person's positive influence spreads through the world around them.
Right, and he ties this to a concept called esma, doesn't he? Can you break that down for us?
I can. Esma refers to the divine names or the beautiful attributes of the divine in Islamic tradition.
Attributes like compassion or justice.
Or wisdom, yes. When Bayrak talks about these ripples, he's saying that a fertile cycle allows human actions to mirror those divine attributes out into the environment. When you act with genuine compassion in your small circle, it ripples out.
It affects the people around you.
Who then affect the people around them.
That is a really beautiful image.
Yeah.
But I'm still trying to figure out how we escape the feeling of just doing the exact same things every single day. I mean, even if I'm rippling good vibes, I'm still doing the morning commute, I'm taking out the trash, I'm making the coffee.
What's fascinating here is how Bayrak layers another dimension onto that rippling water metaphor. He uses what he calls the spiral movement.
The spiral.
Right. It takes the concept of the circle and combines it with ascension. Think about your daily routines, or even the annual return of a holiday like New Year's or Ramadan. On a flat, two-dimensional plane, it looks like you are just returning to the exact same starting line every morning.
Like Groundhog Day.
Exactly. But a spiral is different. A spiral means that while you are passing through the same coordinates, say, sitting in the exact same traffic on your way to work, you are actually stepping up to a higher station, a higher level of consciousness.
Oh, I love the specific detail he uses to visualize this. The idea that time isn't just water flowing down a river and disappearing.
Yeah.
Time is a building being constructed.
Yes.
If you look at a spiral staircase from straight above, like from a helicopter looking down, it just looks like a flat circle.
It looks like you're spinning in place.
But if you walk around and look at it from the side, you see the verticality. You see an ascending column.
Precisely. And the key to moving vertically, rather than just spinning in place, involves escaping the ego, which Bayrak refers to as the nafs.
So the nafs is like the gravity keeping us stuck on that flat circle.
That is a great way to put it. The ego is obsessed with the horizontal plane. comparing itself to others, accumulating things, seeking validation.
The endless scrolling.
Exactly. When you manage to quiet the ego, you stop spinning horizontally and start using those fertile circles as steps. You are actually building your consciousness upward with every rotation. No circle ends exactly where it began.
Wow. That completely changes how I view a Monday morning. And to ground this towering philosophy into a lived experience, Bayrak brings us to a very specific setting. It's a place called Gündüz Yüzü.
Which translates to DAYFACE.
The atmosphere of this place just leaps off the page. DAYFACE used to be a traditional village in Anatolia, and now it has evolved into a modern neighborhood. It got its name because it sits on a hill that catches the very first rays of the morning sun.
And the rhythm of the people who live there is crucial to the story. They don't fight the morning.
No, they embrace it. They wake up before the sun. They start their day with the birds. There's this great line about how the sun always finds them awake. It never catches them asleep.
A beautiful detail.
And because of this, the locals are called daylight faces, meaning they are open, honest, and warm. I really want you listening to just imagine the psychological difference of greeting the sun already on your feet,
Instead of having an alarm clock violently pull you out of a stressful sleep,
just so you can rush out the door.
it's a completely different orientation to time, and it perfectly sets the stage for the characters who arrive at this retreat. And it's important to note that these characters aren't just casual figures in a story, they function as archetypes.
They represent what Bayrak calls the 4 states of modern man.
Right. Gathering to figure out how to harmonize the relentless virtual world with something real.
Let's get into these characters, because I honestly saw a little bit of myself in all of them, especially the first one, the nephew.
The nephew represents the search. He is a 32-year-old intellectual entrepreneur living in Bursa. He is essentially the pulse of our modern digital age.
Totally connected.
Deeply passionate about individual and social rebirth, but his real struggle is entirely internal. He is fighting the modern hunger for visibility, for likes, for approval.
He is basically having a massive existential crisis while trying to build a personal brand. It's so relatable. He has this deep desire, which is perfectly articulated. He wants to believe, understand, and be understood.
But he's stuck in an ecosystem that only rewards superficial engagement.
Exactly. And to balance the nephew's digital anxiety, we meet Roger. Roger represents the measure.
Right. He is a 42-year-old digital ethicist from New Jersey, constantly traveling to Istanbul. Roger spends his days thinking about algorithms, data privacy, and echo chambers. He is the intellectual bridge between East and West.
Roger's the guy trying to put a numerical value on human goodness.
He tries.
Yeah.
He is desperately attempting to be rational, to quantify the world, but he flat out refuses to stop being human.
Which is his saving grace.
Oh, yes. He knows that concepts like trust, virtue, and competence can't be coded into an algorithm, but he puts them at the center of his life anyway. He represents our desire to logically solve the chaos of the modern world.
So we have a burnt-out digital entrepreneur and a hyper-rational ethicist. How do they actually detox? Who guides them through this?
That's where the older generation comes in, starting with the aunt. She embodies compassion.
Oh, I loved her character.
She is 52 and brings this vital balance of empathy and realism to the group. She isn't operating on romanticized pity, nor is she coldly realistic like an algorithm.
I found her worldview fascinating because she refuses to see humanity as an ideology to be debated. For her, humanity is a relationship to be nurtured. She looks at all the friction in the world and sees differences not as reasons to divide, but as opportunities to meet.
And anchoring all of them, holding the entire philosophical weight of the retreat, is the uncle. He represents wisdom. He is a 72-year-old retired teacher from Istanbul, and he is the conscience of this narrative.
There is one defining trait about the uncle that I have not stopped thinking about. He doesn't sit around bragging about his life experience. He doesn't say, "I have seen a lot."
No, he says, "I have eliminated a lot."
Yes, I have eliminated a lot.
That is the essence of modern wisdom right there. In an age of absolute information overload, wisdom isn't about accumulating more data points or reading more articles. It's about filtering out the noise.
Right. Truth doesn't need to shout for the uncle. It shows up in silence. He slows down the rush, filters the words, and balances the heavy emotions of the group. So these 4 archetypes begin their retreat. What is the actual goal of their first few days together?
The primary transition they are attempting to make is moving away from isolated, ego-driven self-interest.
Away from the nafs.
Exactly. And toward a consciousness of shared trust. To do that, they have to completely reframe how they view their place in the world. They have a deep discussion about the difference between being a guest and being an owner.
Which is a tough pill to swallow for anyone raised in a culture that worships ownership.
It is. But Bayrak argues that true knowledge requires deep accountability, not self-glorification. We have to see ourselves as entrusted guests in this life. We don't own it. We are just taking care of it.
Stewardship over ownership.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this transition from owner to guest requires a massive internal shift. It requires building an inner filter of conscience. And the rule for this filter is stringent. It must prioritize clarity over beautification.
I really want you listening to think about that in the context of our digital lives. Every single app we use is designed for beautification. We use literal visual filters on our photos, we curate our feeds to only show our wins, we edit out the messy, boring parts of our days.
The illusion of perfection.
Yes, to step into this consciousness of shared trust, the characters, and by extension, us, are forced to abandon our polished digital personas. You have to choose the unfiltered, sometimes uncomfortable truth over a beautiful lie.
Which brings us to a concept that completely flips our modern cultural narrative on its head. Bayrak compares the human being to a limited line.
Okay, I have to admit, when I first read this, I fought it.
Really?
Yeah, in a culture that constantly tells us to be limitless, to break boundaries, to hustle without limits, being called a limited line sounds almost like a failure. Why does Bayrak argue that this is actually a good thing?
Because limitation is clarity. A line has a distinct beginning and a distinct end. It is finite. But most importantly, a line points in a direction.
It has a vector.
Exactly. The philosophy here argues that it is exactly because we have limits that our lives have structure and meaning. Think about a scribble versus a straight line. A scribble goes everywhere, but it means nothing.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If you try to be everything, you end up being nothing. If you try to be everywhere at once, you go nowhere. Bayrak is saying we actually only touch the infinite when we stop comparing our singular line to everyone else's chaotic scribbles online.
And focus purely on our own direction.
Yes. Our finitude, our very limitations, are what allow us to point towards something eternal.
Spot on. And this philosophical unpeeling of the ego, this acceptance of our limits, leads to a pivotal scene on the second day of the retreat. It is an absolute masterclass in setting a mood for deep reflection.
The way this scene is written, you can practically feel the cool night air. It is late. The characters are sitting outside their cabins by the lake. There are no dramatic storms, no sudden winds to signify a major plot turning point.
There isn't even a campfire to distract them.
Just the faint silver of the moon trembling on the dark water. And there is profound silence. The day hasn't been full of crazy events. It has been full of quiet alignment.
And out of that heavy, comfortable silence, Roger the ethicist, who spends his life measuring things, breaks the quiet.
He asks a huge question.
A question that feels like it was written directly for anyone struggling today. He asks, what determines the measure of life?
We talk about having limits, we talk about pointing in a direction, but how do we know if we are actually living well? Is the measure based on our productivity? Is it our influence? It makes you wonder, what is your measure? Are you measuring your day by how empty your inbox is or how much money you made?
And the uncle, with his characteristic quiet wisdom, folds his hands and gives an answer that just stops you in your tracks. He tells Roger that measure isn't loud like success.
And it is invisible like achievement.
Exactly. He looks out at the moon on the lake and says, true measure lies in proportion.
Proportion.
It's such a precise mathematical word for an ethicist like Roger, but applied to the soul. The uncle elaborates that proportion is the delicate balance between the inner world and the outer world. It is the balance between taking and giving,
Between speaking and listening.
between ambition and humility.
So imbalance is what distorts our measure.
Exactly. If you have too much outward movement, say you are constantly hustling, posting on social media, networking at every single event, but you have no inward grounding or self-reflection, that is a massive distortion.
You're all scribbled, no line.
Right. And conversely, if you have too much inward reflection, you are constantly journaling, meditating, isolating yourself, but you take no outward responsibility for your community, that is also a distortion.
Roger immediately recognizes the contrast to his normal life.
Yeah.
He points out that back in the city, back in the corporate world, speed is the ultimate measure.
Faster is better.
The faster you move, the faster you answer emails, the faster you climb the ladder, the more alive you seem to be. Hustle equals vitality in the modern world. But the uncle completely dismantles this illusion.
He really
He
does.
looks at Roger and says, speed is not vitality, and noise is not depth.
It's a devastating critique of modern life. And it forces the nephew, our digital native, who measures his life by algorithmic recognition and reach, to confront his own reality.
He sits there and has to ask himself how much of his life has been pure knee-jerk reaction to the noise around him.
And how much has been true intention? The realization hits him hard. He asks the uncle, then what is a life well measured?
And the uncle delivers the defining quote of the entire retreat.
He says, a life is well measured when it does not betray itself.
A life is well measured when it does not betray itself. The uncle breaks down exactly what that alignment looks like. He says you are within your measure when your words align with your conscience, when your actions align with your intentions.
When your ambition does not erase your humility.
It isn't about hitting a specific metric of financial or social success. It's about an internal consistency that holds firm no matter how loud the outside world gets.
And you see the shift happen in both the nephew and Roger right there by the lake. It's not a dramatic Hollywood epiphany with sweeping orchestral music. It's a quiet recalibration.
Sitting under that night sky, they finally internalize the uncle's wisdom.
They drop the heavy burden of trying to be limitless owners of their world and accept being grateful guests.
So what does this all mean? For the nephew, and honestly for you listening to this right now on your commute or at your desk, it means completely shifting the ultimate question we use to evaluate our days.
It's a massive pivot.
The nephew realizes that the question he's been waking up with his whole adult life is, how much am I doing? But the real question, the only question that actually matters when evaluating your measure is, how aligned am I living?
As the second day of the retreat closes, the characters have survived this quiet recalibration. They have successfully stripped away the noise and found their proportion.
Which sets them up for the next phase.
Yes, as the uncle tells them before they go to sleep, the next step of their journey is moving from alignment to flow.
From alignment to flow.
This transitions them into the next fertile cycle of Bayrak's philosophy, which explores the human being as a conscious river. But the unshakable foundation of measure has been firmly set.
It really makes you want to look at your own life, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I really encourage you to take a moment today to ask yourself those hard questions. Are you measuring your days by speed and noise, or are you measuring them by proportion and alignment?
It's a tough mirror to look into.
It is. Are you letting your daily routines become a vicious, flat cycle that just drains you? Or are you doing the internal work to transform them into an ascending, fertile spiral?
This raises an important question, something we haven't deeply touched on yet, but builds directly on Bayrak's philosophy.
Let's hear it.
If a fertile cycle turns routine into an ascending spiral, and if finding our true measure requires stripping away our polished digital personas, what happens when we apply this directly to the very technology we use every day?
Oh, that's interesting.
Can our digital devices, which are undeniably the greatest engines of speed and noise in human history, be consciously redesigned? Could we build our apps and algorithms to act as digital mirrors of conscience?
Actually prompting us to check our internal alignment before every single tap, swipe, and post.
Exactly, before the noise takes over.
That is a brilliant thought to leave off on. Imagine a world where our technology actually asks us, does this betray your intention? Before we hit send.
It would change everything.
It really would. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into such beautiful, challenging material. As you step out into the rest of your day, we hope you do it with a daylight face, open, honest, and awake, and with a quiet, well-measured step. Catch you next time.